Hi everybody, and welcome back to my Disney mini album tutorial series. Now in the last video we decorated this upper flap here on the front and back sides. So today we're going to be decorating the lower flap. Now for this one, I have looked, I know you can't see all of these pieces, but I've looked across this spread here to see what is going to look best for my papers and for my layout. Now I haven't finished the photo booklet for the front cover page, but I did pick a design so that I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to incorporate my camera paper and I'm going to incorporate my red stripe paper here onto the front cover as well, so that when this is open like this, you will see it'll go across that spread. So we've got the polka dots here, we've got the polka dots here, and then that'll bring the rest of this piece over into here. So that means I'm going to have some of the reds, I'm going to have some of the browns and some of the whites. So here I want, because this is more of a white and this has got all of it and it's got that red feature, I want this to be more of a black toned look, but with the other colors. So I did cut this paper. I'll come back to it in just a minute. So I've got my dark background here and I've just stuck this little piece in for now just to give it that pop of color. So we've got my red, but the main paper that I'm going to be using here is going to be this one. And I like the contrast of this and this. I tried this with some of the lighter paper and it just was too much given the way the rest of the spread did. So I'm going to do the black and the black paper. Now for this underside here, I'm going to be using the white paper here. So that's going to break up that black on black paper. And then that red stripe is also going to break it up to give it a little bit of a lighter flare. And now I do have one more of my pockets here too. And I liked the contrast with the star paper here being white and then with the white pocket. So I think that's going to work really well together. So we're going to jump in and get started on cutting the papers. Now starting with my little piece here, this is 3/4 by 8 inches, and this is the piece that I have that's tucked into here. It doesn't need to be super wide piece, so a scrap will do, and it's going to go just inside of here. Then this piece is cut to 5 inches by 6 inches, and it's going to go here on the front of my little piece. Remember, this is removable, so we'll do the inside in just a minute. And then I have this piece cut to 5 3/4 by 8 inches, and it is going to go here on the front side of this pocket here. And I like the contrast of this. Now I'm going to come in here to the inside of my booklet. I've taken the leftover paper that I had cut from the piece from here. So this piece was cut to 10 3/4 by 8 1/4. If you wanted to cut your paper now and set it aside. Then I have my piece at the top. If you want these to be 4 inches, then you'd have to cut from a different piece of paper, obviously. Now I've noticed that this paper actually is 12 1/8 of an inch. So my pieces are 3 7/8 by 6 inches. So I'm not going to recut this to get a 4-inch piece. I'm just going to use what I have. And I'm going to be placing these here as spaces for my photos. And then I'm going to be adding some decorative papers around it. So I had a leftover piece of this striped paper here that I thought contrasted pretty well with it. And it brings the paper from the upper flap in. Now the first piece measures 1 inch by 6 inches, and I'm going to place it here. Now my booklet, the cover of it is actually a little bit shorter than the back part of it, so this piece is going to be larger to accommodate that. Then the 3 remaining pieces are actually all the same size. They're 5/8 by 6 inches. And these two are actually a continuous pattern, so they will line up. The other ones will not because of how I cut a strip off of the paper. So I'm going to place these ones pretty close together on each side of my score line, and then I'm going to arrange these pieces here. Now, if you recut your paper and you have a 4-inch piece, you're just going to need to cut 1/8 of an inch or so off of one of the pieces, and I would recommend cutting it off of the edge here and then cutting it off of the edge of this one here. So we're going to add these to the inside of our booklet. And for right now, I'm not going to decorate the back side of the booklet. If I have enough paper left over, I will, but for now, I'm just going to add these pieces. Once I have my booklet covered here, I'm going to place it back into my pocket. And then I do have one of my stickers. I have it backed on black cardstock, and I'm going to create another tuck spot out of this, but I think I'm actually going to back it onto some of the yellow cardstock first and fussy cut around it to strengthen this. Okay, so it is much sturdier with my yellow cardstock behind it. And now I'm just going to center this here on my flap. So I'm not centering it on my page, I'm centering it on my flap here. So it's going to be about here. And I'm just going to mark where this needs to go so that I can put this right back into place. And then I'm just going to apply adhesive to this left portion. And then sit this right back down. And then I'm going to remove this so it doesn't get stuck in there accidentally. And then I'm going to let this dry before I put this all the way in there. So for now, I'm just going to tuck it into here, and we're going to move on to the back side of the flap. And we are going to be placing a magnet on the back side of the flap. Now for my magnet, I'm going to be placing it over here on the left side towards the top. And let's see, it is about 1 inch over and about 3/4 down from the bottom edge. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to have a photo spread, and I don't like to put magnets under my photos because I think it actually ruins the photos. So I've got my second magnet, and now I'm going to get my backing off of it so I can place it correctly onto the page base. So with that magnet attached to the first one, I'm going to just press down on this flap. And now I have my second magnet in place. Now the piece that we have for here, I mentioned that I cut mine already because I needed to use the remaining piece, and I cut this when I was explaining the page too. So this is cut to 10 3/4 by 8 1/4, and I'm going to place it here on the base of the page so I can go ahead and cover my magnet. Now I'm going to add my library pocket here, and you can always create a library pocket. Again, you can just decide what width you want it to be, and you cut the piece here, and then you cut a second piece for your pocket. And I'm going to attach mine here. Now for this one, I'm going to attach it fully to my page. I'm not going to create a tuck spot on this one. So I'm just going to add all of that adhesive there. If you want to add a tuck spot, you can, but with what I'm going to do on my page, the tuck spot isn't going to be necessary. And I'm just going to probably put a journaling card, maybe a photo strip in here as well. Once I have that on my page, I'm going to flip this up to work on my upper flap. Now I had a piece of this paper left over, and I'm going to be using it on the red side. And I have this cut to 6 1/4 by 4 inches. I'm going to place this one down here at the bottom. Then this one is 3 by 4 inches. It's going to go here in the center. And then I have 2 pieces of my star paper. They measure a little bit more than 1.5 by 4 inches. And they're going to go here and here on each side of my paper. And this one I'm going to be careful and make sure that it completely covers that magnet. Now, once I have all of my papers on here, I've taken one of my little stickers. I wanted to bring some of the yellow in, so I chose the yellow sticker here. I backed it onto some black cardstock, and I'm going to be adhering it here only to the center. So I'm just going to apply some adhesive right to the center of my piece here, and then set this right there and burnish it down. So then those photos can slide up underneath of that piece. And for now, this flap is done. So I'm going to close that and move it up for a minute, but I am going to open this up and we're going to add one more piece here to the base of the page. Now I have the remaining piece of my star paper and I've cut it to, it's 6 1/4 by 6 inches and it's going to go here, but I'm going to cut out a frame in the center of this and then the photo can slide underneath of it. So I'm going to bring my cutter in and I'm going to show you how I cut my frames. I'm going to have a 1-inch frame at the top and bottom and a 1/2 inch frame on the sides. Now you could also do a half, 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 and then a larger frame at the bottom altogether, and that would be more almost like a Polaroid frame, but I'm going to have mine be more even. So I'm using my trimmer here. Hopefully this is in frame and you can see it. And I've got it lined up here on this is the 6 1/4 inch side. Make sure it's 6 1/4. Yep, it's 6 1/4 this way, 6 inches this way. So on the 6 1/4 inch side, I'm lining it up at a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to bring my trimmer in at 1 inch. And I'm going to cut down to 5. Now I'm going to turn completely around and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line up the 1/2 inch and I'm cutting now from 5 to 1. And now I'm going to turn 90 degrees and line up at 1 inch. And then coming up here at a 1/2 inch. And then down here. And then I'm going to flip it. 5 3/4 up to that 1/2 inch. And now I have my frame. I can bring it back in here and I'm going to set this here on the page. And now I'm going to put a piece of acetate on the back side of my frame. And then I'm going to adhere the sides and the bottom down so that that photo can slide in the top. So I have my acetate on the back of this and I've decided, so I've got to put my frame up above my magnet because I don't want it to catch in there. I've decided I'm going to have a side loading frame. I think it'll be easier than having this be a top loading frame. So I'm going to then place my adhesive here on each of the top and bottom part, and I'm just putting it on my acetate. I'm going to use my tacky glue for the rest of this, and then I'm going to place it down the right side of that frame with the opening to the left. And then I'll be placing this up here a little bit higher towards the top just because my magnet is right here and I don't want it to catch in my magnet. And once my frame is on, I'm going to take a couple of my stickers. I'm not going to back them onto cardstock here, and I'm just going to place this one right here towards the bottom. And it will go on to that acetate, which is fine. And then I'm going to take the little "We Are Here" sticker, and I think, yeah, I'm going to add it into the center at the top. So just to make sure that it is centered here, I bring my centering ruler in and place it there. And then I'll go ahead and close this up. And so there is my hidden frame. Then I can take this out of my pocket and place it in here. And now the front side is done. We're going to start on the back side. Now for my page down here, I'm going to bring in my red polka dot paper that will go with the inside. Front cover has red polka dot paper, and then the left or the right side inside has that red polka dot frame, so it's going to start to tie everything together. I'm also going to be using this side of the paper for here and here. That's going to bring that white paper that was on the inside front cover in. And I'm going to use this piece here as a pocket on the front of this flap to bring in some of those yellows into this as well. Now for this piece, I'm going to extend this onto this flap too. So I have decided that I am going to have my piece open up this direction. So my left flap is going to be underneath and my right flap is going to be on top. I will be putting a magnet down here when we come to the inside, but for now I'm going to focus on cutting this paper here. So I'm going to be cutting this in two separate pieces, one for the back side and then one for the front side. Now this is going to be tucked underneath of here, so it will be a little bit longer. And that piece is going to end up being, it looks like about 8 1/8 will fit in there. So they're going to be 1 1/4 by 8 1/8, and I'm going to have 2 of those, so 1 for each side. Now for the front here, I have a piece of the red polka dot paper I've cut to 7 1/2 by 7 3/4. So that will go on the front first. And like I mentioned, I'm going to make this a pocket, so I will apply my adhesive around the edges on the sides and the bottom. And then I'm going to place this down here towards the bottom and centered on this flap, not centered on the entire piece, but centered on the flap. Now I am going to add the little Minnie Mouse bow here on top of the L, just for a little bit of extra decoration. And then I'm going to stick one of the cut apart cards in here, so I can either place it like this, but that's a lot of stripes, or I can place it like this. And I think I'm going to leave mine like this for now. Then I'm going to open up here and I'm going to place a magnet in the center. And about 3/4 of an inch from that right edge. Then I'll place a second little strip of adhesive on here. And then close this to place it properly on the right-hand flap. Now for this flap, I have the leftover piece of this strip that I've cut 2 inches by 7 3/4, and it's going to go here to cover my magnet. Then I have this piece here I've cut from this, and it matches that top flap that has the striped paper on it. It's cut to 5 1/2 by 7 3/4. So it is going to go here on this side. That way 2 smaller photos can go here or a larger photo can go here, so the user can decide how they want to use that space. Now I've taken these same 2 papers again, but I've cut them a little bit differently. All I had left from here was a 5 1/4 inch piece. Pretty sure it was 5 1/4. Yep, so 5 1/4 inches. So I'm going to place this 5 1/4 by 7 3/4. It's going to be here. And then I've cut this piece then to 2 1/8 by 7 3/4, and I'll place it here to cover that magnet, just like this. Next, we're going to come over here, and I've got some of the same paper. So I've got these 2. I've cut them in the same orientation as the stripes that are over here. They're 4 1/2 by 3 3/4. I'll place one in this top left corner and one in this bottom right corner. Then I've taken 2 of my cut apart cards, and I'm going to be placing those here in the corners, here and here. And there is going to be a small open space in the middle of the page just because of how these papers have been cut. Okay, I've taken 3 of these black circle stickers. I think this is what they were intended for, and I've just backed them onto some black cardstock and I fussy cut right around them. I didn't leave a border, and I'm going to be placing this here just inside of my little section here, and I'm only going to add some adhesive there in the center, and then I'm going to turn this at a slight angle and place this right here, just to kind of hide that little spot. Not that it's a big deal that there is something there that it's not covered, but I think it's cute too, but it will break that little plain spot up. Now for the inside here, I'm just going to be cutting one solid piece, and I've chosen this paper here. I've cut this to 8 1/4 by 8 inches. I had thought about doing 2 4x6 photos and then having a strip of decorative paper at the top or bottom, but I've ultimately decided this. That way the user can put multiple small photos, they can put two regular size photos, they can do a 6x8 photo or 5x7 photo, however they would choose. And so I'm going to leave that up to the user, but I do think I'm going to be placing a sticker here, and they could cover it with the photo if they would choose to. I did choose to use this rather large sticker here, and then I've added the 2 little smaller red heart stickers here. Like I said, if someone wants to put multiple photos here, they can completely cover up this sticker with a photo, and that is perfectly fine. So we've got this nice big spread for multiple photos here. And then this will close just like this, and again, it is held together with that magnetic closure. Now this is a belly band, so we will come back later and add the inserts to our belly band. So that is all for the bottom page for now, and this is where I'm going to stop this part of the tutorial. So in the last video, we're going to add our papers to here. It's going to be a relatively simple spread. And then we're going to add all of the inserts to the rest of the album and go ahead and finish everything up. So I hope you will join me for the last tutorial.